just come down onto your mat.
Mm-hmm.
We'll come into our relaxation position. So lying down and have your legs roughly about hip width apart and parallel. Knees are bent. Good. And either lengthen the arms along the side of the body, palms facing down, or if you prefer, you can place your hands on your lower abdomen. That's fine. And just watching that your knees are nicely parallel to your feet, so they're not rolling in towards each other or back. Perfect. And just allow the entire spine to just widen and lengthen into the mat. And start to be aware of parts of the body that are in touch with the mat and encourage them to feel heavy and supported. You can feel the 3 areas of the body weight: the sacrum, which is the back of the pelvis, the back of the rib cage, and your head. Release your thighs and just start to soften the areas around your hips. And feel the length of through your collarbone, the softness in your breastbone, and just releasing the neck, the jaw, and the face. Just start to feel the natural curves of your spine. And we're just going to allow the body to adapt to this position for a minute. Just let the spine relax and release. So breathing in through the nose, and then exhaling everything out the mouth. So just continuing with this breath, breathing in through the nose, really into the sides, into the backs of the rib cage as opposed to the belly. So really thinking about the ribs, just widening as you breathe in. And as you exhale, start to release all that carbon dioxide, almost to the point where you can just start to feel those lower abdominals knit together. Good. You can have your eyes closed for this. Just keep going for a few more breaths, just allowing everything to be released, everything to start to soften down, particularly feeling your ribs just start to soften into the mat. We usually start quite pigeon-chested when our body's a little bit tight. So this breathing on the mat just gives us a little bit of time to adapt and release. Good. So we're going to come into some shoulder drops. Really nice to release the shoulder girdle. So just drawing the shoulders away from the ears, we're going to reach both arms up, palms facing towards each other, and just letting the humerus just sit comfortably into that shoulder joint. And I want you to breathe in as you reach your right arm up towards the ceiling. Start to feel that good. Just start to feel that release. Just watch that your elbows don't overextend, keeping everything else nice and heavy. So we're just moving that shoulder girdle and then dropping it back down as you exhale. Other side, breathing in, reaching the fingertips up. And then exhaling, just letting them slide back down. You're just going to keep going with this alternation, going from side to side. So you breathe in as you reach, and then you exhale as you lower. So everything else is staying completely stable in the mat. And while you're working through your shoulder girdle, I want you to start to just think of this little tiny lift, tiny little nipping together into the lower abdominals, almost like you're trying to push your belly button towards the back of your spine a little bit. So soft movement. So no bracing in the abdominals. It's just a little gentle lift. Good. So bringing both hands up together now. Let's do the double reach. So breathing in as you reach your fingertips up towards the ceiling, feeling both release away from the mat. And then as you exhale, just letting them drop back down. Good. Just doing 2 more of those for me. Breathing in and exhaling. Good. And then you can just turn the palms to face your knees and lower the arms all the way back down by the side of the body. And then we can bring our hands onto our hip bones. Let's just release the lower pelvis a little bit and the lower lumbar spine. So imagining you've got that clock face on your lower abdomen and your belly button is north and your pubic bone, or your tailbone, should I say, is south. I want you to take a little breath in, and as you exhale, thinking about that tuck of the tailbone so you can feel the lower part of your spine release into the mat. Just feel it release, feel it flattened. And then draw that tailbone away so you feel a little lengthening in your lower back. So it's like this little seesaw effect. So we're not moving really anything else, just sort of trying to rock our pelvis backwards and forwards, just feeling this lengthening and then this releasing into the mat. While we're doing this, just thinking about that little lift through the pelvic floor, almost like you're trying to squeeze both the front and your back opening a little bit without sticking your abdominals out, if that makes sense. It's just like a little lift and then release. Just doing one more of these. And then just let your pelvis settle in between the two. So just let your pelvis be lovely and heavy. So we're going to do some spine curls now. So thinking about that release in the lower back. So we brought our tailbone towards our nose. And then we're going to start to just lift the spine up and away off the mat. So the hips start to open. We're lengthening the knees away. And we're softening the ribs down. So we're coming into this little spine lift here. Good. Even weight through the feet. Keep your head nice and heavy. Keep your chest nice and open. I want you to take a little breath in here. And as you exhale, start to lower your spine slowly down. So bone by bone by bone. Keep that tuck in your tailbone so you can feel that release in the lower part of the back. And then once you've released, your pelvis will just naturally come back to its neutral position. So let's go again. So let's exhale, let's tuck that tailbone, push through the feet, opening up your hips and softening your ribs down. So the shoulders stay away from the ears. Even weight through those feet. Little breath in, and as you exhale, start to lower the spine back down with control, bone by bone. Keep that tailbone tucked towards your nose for as long as possible so you can start to feel that release in the lower part of your back, and then let your pelvis just naturally come back to its starting position. Now, if that's feeling okay, we're just going to do one more of those. So as we exhale, little tuck, start to peel and wheel your spine up and away, coming to about the base of your shoulders. Little breath in at the top, and then exhaling, lowering the spine back down, bone by bone by bone. Feel that release in the lower part of the back, and then just relax. Good, well done. So let's come into some neck rotations. So arms nice and down by the side of the body. We're just going to take a breath in. As we exhale, let's just start to gently take that neck over to the right into a little bit of rotation. Good. Breathing, come back to center. And then exhaling, take your neck over to the left. So you're letting that left ear just drop over. And then come back to center. So just doing a few more of these in your own time. I'm sort of just getting this very small rotation, letting the ear drop as we keep our breastbone lovely and soft. Keep our pelvis really heavy. And just breathing nice and comfortably. Try to exhale on the movement, but don't worry if you get lost in breath, just keep breathing. Good. Let's just make this our last set, so one more to each side. And then once you've done an even amount, just bring your head back to center. Just watch that those shoulders haven't gathered up towards your ears. We're keeping the chest nice and open. I'm going to come into some single knee folds. I want you to lift your right heel up and then draw that knee in and just hold it there. So the knee is staying in line with the hip. And I want you to start to feel how your tummy is having to work to keep your pelvis grounded and the back of your rib cage grounded. I'm going to hold this position and then gently with control lower it back down, keeping your spine completely stable. So we're just working through the hip joint. So let's exhale, draw the other knee up now. Not too far in, keep the spine nice and stable, and then lower it back down with control. Back to the right, so you start with a heel. Exhale, draw that knee in. Nice 90-degree angle with the knee, softly pointed toe, good. And then lowering it back down with control, feeling that connection in the deep tummy muscles. Other side. And lower. Now if it feels okay, we're going to now add a leg extension. So let's come into that single knee fold with the right. And now reach your toe away. So the leg straightens and the knees stay in line with each other. So we're having to engage, good. So we're having to engage that tummy a little bit more to keep that pelvis heavy. Keep the ribs soft. Breathe in, draw that knee back in and lower it down with control. Good. Let's go again, other side. Single knee fold. Now this time you're going to breathe in, extend that leg away, lengthen energy through that leg, keep the pelvis stable, keep the ribs soft. Draw the knee back in and lower it back down. One more to each side if this feels okay. Otherwise you can just do your single knee folds if it's a bit much, but single knee fold. And then we're breathing in to help with our core stability as we straighten that leg. Feel that tummy have to work a little bit to keep our spine nice and stable. Lower it back down, good. And other side, nice control. Chest stays open, heavy head. Just keep breathing. Lengthen that leg away. Good. Still squeezing the deep abdominals. Drawing it back and lowering it back down. Good. And then just releasing for a moment. Bring your hands back onto your hip bones. And let the elbows connect with the mat. Chest stays open. Let's come into some knee drops. So we're going to start with the right knee. And I want you to think about that thigh bone just opening out to the side. So the right foot stays connected, but just rolls onto the outer border. And while we do this, the hands give you feedback for your pelvis to stay completely stable. If we don't use our tummy muscles, the pelvis will just naturally want to roll with us. So this is really good for strengthening our pelvic floor a little bit. So thinking a little lift, using your tummy muscles, opening that thigh to the side. Hold here, take a breath in, and then exhale, close that leg back to the starting position. Good, other side. So we exhale the movement, stable pelvis. Hold this position, engage through the tummy muscles, and then close the knee back in. So let's just keep alternating. Opening, letting the foot roll to the side. Hold. Coming back. So exhale the movement. Breathe in, hold. And then exhaling, drawing it back. You're still thinking about pushing that belly button, a little scoop in the belly, pushing that belly button slightly towards the back of your spine. Little lift up inside. Good. Let's do one more to each side. Keeping the chest open, the head relaxed. Good. And then after you've done a nice even amount, you can just bring the feet back to that starting position, roughly about hip width. Then the arms can come back down by the side. So we're going to come into something called the windows now. So let's bring our arms over chest, roughly in line with our shoulders, hands pointing towards our knees. I want you to now bend your elbows to the floor. So if you want to watch me quickly, so we're going to bend our elbows towards the floor as such. So keeping our elbows roughly in line with our shoulders. We're then going to take the backs of the palms towards the floor. So we're getting a bit of rotation in the shoulder. Then going to reach the arms away, make sure you have some room, and then lift the arms back up. Okay. So it's called windows. So we're doing this movement. So let's start with the arms over the chest. Soft breastbone. Relax the humerus in the shoulders first. You're going to breathe in. You're going to bend those elbows down towards the floor. And then exhale, drop the palms so they're parallel to the floor. Keep your chest nice and relaxed. Then reach those arms all the way overhead. Start to feel the softness in your ribs. And then reach the arms all the way back up over chest. Good. You'll get the movement in a moment. Sometimes take a couple. So we bend those elbows. And then we drop the palms. Get that rotation. And then we reach the arms all the way along so they're framing our head. Feel that connection in the tummy to keep our spine nice and stable. And then we reach the arms back up. Good, let's do two more. So let's breathe in, bend those elbows. Exhale, drop the palms towards the floor. Breathe in, reach behind you, engage through that tummy, and then bring the arms back over chest. Good. One more. Bend those elbows, breathe in. Exhale, drop those palms. Breathe in, reach overhead. And then exhale, take them over chest and then all the way back down by the side of the body. Good, well done. So we're going to come into some knee circles now. So let's come back into our single knee fold with the right leg. Hold it here. Now I want you to think about the thigh bone in your hip socket. So we're going to think about pushing that belly button slightly towards the back of our spine, keeping our pelvis nice and grounded. And we're going to start to make little circles with our knees, but the movement's coming from the thigh. So let's slightly bring that knee up towards our nose. Take it over the midline of the body. Take it down and open out to the side. So we're going to do 5 circles, almost a bit more like a teardrop shape. 5 one way, and then you're going to reverse it. Now the whole time you're trying to keep your pelvis really, really still. We're wanting the thigh bone to be mobilizing into that hip joint. We're still having to use that connection of the tummy. Keep your shoulders heavy, keep the chest open. And breathe. Just keep breathing. And then once you've done about 5, you're going to then reverse it. So try and keep the angle of the knee. Try and keep that nice 90-degree angle. And try to keep everything else as stable as possible. So we're having to sort of squeeze and lift through the deep abdominals and the pelvic floor a little bit. It helps with our stability. Once you've done about 5 both ways, you can take that knee back over your hip and then lower it back down. And then we're going to go to the other side. So single knee folds with the left, 90-degree angle, softly pointed toe. Let's breathe in as we start to draw that knee up towards our nose. And then taking it over the midline, down and slightly round. Again, doing about 5. A real nice control of that thigh bone in your hip. Take the movement smaller. You don't need to take it terribly big, but I want the movement just from the hip joint. Keeping everything else really stable. If you haven't already, going the other way. Keep breathing. Keep everything free of tension. Good. And then bringing the knee over the hip, and then you can just lower it back down. And then we can take both knees in towards the body. Just give yourself a little hug. Just drop that tailbone for a moment, and then releasing it away. Drop the tailbone, open the chest, and then just release it. And then if you can keep your toes together, we can just start to make small little knee circles. Doing a few one way, a few the other. And then we can place the feet back down. Now let's bring the feet, the knees, the thighs completely together. I want them glued together, opening the arms into a low V. Palms facing the ceiling, shoulders away from the ears, the chest is nice and open. I'm going to come into some knee rolls. So make sure the feet aren't too far away from the body. I want you to take both legs over to the right, keep them glued, and as you take your knees over to the right, your left hip is going to just start to lift. And then I want you to hold that position by thinking about that scoop in the belly as your arms and your shoulders stay really heavy into the mat. You're going to hold here. And then using that scoop in the belly, you're going to take your knees back to center. Great. Let's go to the other side. So we exhale, take those knees over to the left. Let the foot lift slightly. Let that right hip come away from the mat. And then you're going to pause. You're going to scoop that belly, hold the position, breathe in. And then using that tummy to take your knees back to center. So the whole time the shoulders are staying connected into the mat. We're thinking out a little scoop in the belly. Helps control the movement. We're just going to keep alternating to the sides. Hold, breathe in. And then exhale, coming back. Good. We're thinking a little scoop in the belly. Drawing that tummy in to take the knees back. Keeping the shoulders heavy. Keeping the breastbone soft. Good. Just doing one more, just making sure you're even to both sides, and then you can bring your feet back to the starting position. And then you can just open your feet out to being about hip width again. Lovely. And then the arms can actually come over underneath our head. Now, we're going to do a curl up, even though it's not, it's more about getting that upper spine flexion. So I want the shoulders drawn away from the ears and your elbows slightly in your peripheral vision, and just start to think about the weight of your pelvis and the softness of your rib cage and breastbone. We're going to start with just a little gentle tuck of the chin. And I want you to just start to flex the spine a little away from the mat. So it's not about how high you can go. It's more like you're coming up, but your spine is connecting down into the mat, if that makes sense. You're going to hold, take a little breath in, and then exhale. Just start to lower the spine back down. Keep your elbows in your vision, so don't let them collapse each time. Let's go again. So we exhale, a little tuck of the chin. Start to flex that spine up. So you've got that little lift in the deep abdominals, thinking about the spine being still heavy into the mat. Little breath in at the top. And then exhaling, lowering back down. Good, let's go again. Tuck the chin. Little scoop in the belly. Lift, so you're just gently looking between your thighs. Keep the neck long. Keep the shoulders away from the ears. And then exhaling, lowering back down. Let's do 2 more of these if that's okay. So we exhale, tuck the chin. Thinking about that spine, thinking about that rib cage being really grounded into the mat. Breathe in at the top. And then exhaling, lowering back down. Last one. Now tuck the chin, blowing the air, curling up. Keeping that tailbone really grounded. And then lowering back down. Softening the rib cage back down. Good. And then just taking your hands away. Just bringing them back down by the side of the body. And then just bringing those knees back in. Giving yourself a little rock to side. Releasing that lower back. And then place the feet back down. And from here, we're going to actually carefully roll over onto our side. And this is where the extra head cushion will be very, very useful. So we're going to do this movement called the oyster. So with your head cushion or whatever cushion, you're going to just place it between your ear and your shoulder, and the underneath arm is going to be lengthened underneath you. And I want your legs together, but your heels and your knees on top of each other, but your heels in line with your spine. So kick your heels back so they're roughly in line with the spine. You can use your rug or mat as a bit of a guideline, lengthening the arm underneath. There we go. As long as that feels okay, does that feel right? Give me a thumbs up if that, yeah, perfect. So just gently looking at your knees, we want your knees to be stacked together so that top hip's not sliding away too much. And we've got a little lift in the waist, so we're not just collapsed. We've got almost like you're ironing your hip away. So what we're going to do is we're going to keep those heels squeezed together, and we're going to open the knee out. So this is really, so it's not a big movement. So we're keeping the pelvis nice and stacked. You're going to open the knees, keep the heels really connected, and then lower them back down. So exhaling, opening, squeezing those heels together, and then lowering back down. So the whole while we're doing this, we're getting lateral rotation of our hips, got a little lift in the pelvic floor and the deep abdominal. So think of that little squeeze, lifting up like a little elevator. We're just opening and closing. We're just breathing each time, whether it's breathing in, then breathing out, or breathing out, breathing in, but just keep breathing for the movement. So it's small. We're trying, lovely. We're trying not to get any rotation in the spine or the pelvis. We're simply working through the hips. This is really good little exercise for, particularly for the pelvic floor strength. Let's just do 2 more of these. Last one. And then just release back down. Give the hip a little pat if you need. Now we're just going to do 5 bit of medial rotation in the hip. So keep now your knees together as you kick your foot up. There we go. So keep the knees together, keep that little scoop in the belly button, and then lower it back down. So we're kicking the foot up, little squeeze, and lowering it back down. Good. 4 more. Keep breathing. Just keep breathing. Good. I think we've got 2 left. Last one. And then just release. Good. Now, if it's okay, I'd quite like to do some extension with you. So if you're all right to roll onto your tummy, is that all right? To come onto your tummy, or is that not? So we'll want to do a little bit of extension. So good. So I want your legs to be roughly about hip width. You can rest your forehead on a cushion. And we're going to make a little diamond shape with our hands just in front of us. So we've got our arms out in front of you. So if you just want to watch me for a moment. So the shoulders are set down the back. And if it's okay to rest your forehead, or if you need a little cushion, if it's a bit uncomfortable. So while we're lying here, I want you to think your pelvis or your pubic bone is quite heavy into the mat. And already you're thinking about that lift in the belly button. So we're scooping a little bit in the belly. So this is going to protect our lower back. So we've got that lift in the tummy. We've got our hands in front, the shoulders away from our ears. We're going to imagine we're rolling a little ball forward with our nose and keeping the lower ribs connected, not pushing up with our arms. We're just going to gently come up into a very little bit of extension. So it's important to keep that little scoop in the belly because we're working through the upper back muscles. So again, really good if we've been hovering over a computer. So the legs are lengthening away, your pubic bone is really heavy, and you're scooping through the belly, coming up into a little bit of extension. Going to hold here, keep your neck nice and long, and then gently lower yourself back down and just tuck that chin back in again. So let's go again. So we take a breath in to prepare. As we exhale, we roll our nose slightly forward. And then we start to shine our breastbone forward as well. So we're just lifting ever so slightly up. Keep that scoop in the belly. Keep that pubic bone grounded. You're going to hold at the top and then releasing yourself back down. Good. So we're going to do another 4 of these. Lovely. Yes. So no higher than that. Doesn't need to be any higher, and then gently lowering yourself back down. So the whole time you're thinking belly pushing back, we're lifting that belly button towards the back of our spine. My pubic bone is really grounded into the mat. I'm almost feeling like I'm trying to lengthen my legs away without actually moving them. We're not using our arms at all. We're working the back muscles. Small movement. I like to call it a bit like a zombie drag. And once you've done your last one, so making this your last one, if it's okay, you can push yourself back into a rest position. Are you okay to do a rest position like this?
Yeah.
Perfect. So it's good because this is actually, it's nice because obviously this is a chronic charity. It's nice to know sort of how far we can take positions, but bringing your arms out in front, resting the forehead down, just let the tummy go and just take a few breaths in here, breathing in through the nose and exhaling out the mouth. Yeah, just one more breath. Good. And then if you just walk your left hand slightly to the left, placing your right hand on top. We're just going to do a little side flexion of the spine. Rest your forehead down. Soften the shoulders away from the ears and just breathing into that right lung a little bit. Breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in and breathing out. And then you can just walk your hands back to center before going over to the other side. So placing your left hand on top of your right, lowering your head, and then just start to breathe into that left lung a little bit. Breathing in, breathing out, breathing in. Good. And then we're just going to walk our hands back to center, and then carefully you're going to lower yourself back onto your tummy again. We're not going to do any spinal extension, so we can just get nice and comfortable in the top half. I want your legs to be roughly about mat width, or whatever your mat that you've got there is perfect. So we just want them slightly mat width. And I want you to think about if it's okay, if you can turn them slightly out from the hips. If that's too much, you can just bring them parallel. So whatever works for you. So if they're slightly turned out from the hips, the heels are a little bit rolled in and the toes are out. That feels okay? Mm-hmm. Good. So just letting your top half relax. I still want you to think about that little lift in the belly, that little scoop, and a nice grounded pubic bone. And we're going to come into some hip extension. So a little bit of, well, we call it star one. So I want you to think about lifting and lengthening your left leg ever so slightly, like you could fit an envelope underneath your thigh. So keep that scoop in the belly, just lift and lengthen that left leg, and then drop it down. Good, so really small, like just getting a thick envelope underneath your upper thigh. Going to the other side. So you're going to lift and lengthen. Try not to get any rotation in the pelvis, so the pelvis is staying nice and stable. We're scooping through the belly. And we're just going to alternate from side to side. So finding a comfortable breath, so breathing in, breathing out, and just gently lifting and lengthening your legs from side to side. You're feeling the weight of your pubic bone. Keep that scoop in the belly, a little lift. Right. Lift and lengthen. And you should start to feel it a little bit in the bottom. So really good, important to have a bit of hip extension into our legs. And again, really good for the pelvic floor as well. Just going to do one more to each side. And then once you've done your even amount, just let the hips go. Just let everything relax. Give your pelvis a little wiggle, a little bit of release. Mm-hmm. And then carefully roll yourself over onto the side to do the other hip. So I'm going to switch over so you can actually see my face and not my bottom. But just rolling yourself over to the hip that you haven't done. Bringing your cushion with you. So you've got that underneath arm lengthened. You've got the cushion between your ear and your shoulder, just to make sure you've got that correct neck alignment. And bringing your knees and your heels together, slide those heels back so they're in line with your spine. And then we've got that little lift in the waist, just looking down at your knees, making sure that they're nicely stacked. Good, just softening those ribs, drawing the shoulder away from your ear. Good. And now we're going to squeeze those heels together as you start to open that top leg up without disturbing the pelvis. Good. And then lowering it back down. So just finding that breath for you. So breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in. Breathing out. So the whole time, just thinking about that little scoop in the belly. Switching on your center. Opening and closing. Let's do about 4 more. We've got about 4 more left. Just keep breathing. And that's 3, 2, and then last one. And then just release that leg down. Give your hip a pat if you need to. And then just keeping your legs there where they're going to keep the knees connected as we kick that foot up towards the ceiling, just getting a bit of a medial rotation, so lateral medial rotation, again, really good for just strengthening our hips out. We're just going to do 6 of these. Again, that little scoop in the belly. 3, 4, 5. And then we'll make this our last one, 6. And then just lower that foot down. And very carefully, you can just roll over onto your back. And just settle yourself there for a moment. So bringing your feet to about hip width again, arms rested down by the side of the body. Just taking a moment here to start to feel, or notice maybe how your body's feeling for a moment. And then we're going to take those arms all the way up over our shoulders and reach them all the way behind you, switching that tummy on, keeping the ribs soft. And then take them back over the chest and down by the side of the body. So one more like this. So breathing in, reaching arms over chest. Exhale, take them all the way, softening those ribs down. Breathing in and exhaling down. Bring those arms back over chest, and this time bring the palms to face each other. Keep your elbows nice and soft as we take the arms out to the side. So we're really opening out into a bit of a fly position. So keep the elbows soft, almost like you're holding a massive ball in front of you. And then close them back over your shoulders. So breathing in, opening, and exhaling. Last one like this, breathing in and exhaling. Good, let's turn those palms to face your knees. You might not have room, but if you do have room, we're going to take those arms all the way overhead again, softening the ribs down and come into arm circles. So we're going to take the arms out to the side, keep that tummy scoop to protect the, keep the spine nice and stable. And then as you pass towards your hips, you're going to turn the palms so they're now facing the bottom. I did not explain that very well, so I'm going to start that again. So we're reaching those arms overhead, so the palms are currently facing the ceiling. Bring them out to the side into a T shape. And once your hands have passed your shoulders, you're going to turn the palms, so the palms are now facing the floor as they make it up towards your hip. So we're circling all the way back and also getting a little bit of rotation in the forearms as well. Good. Just do one more of these. Circling them, softening the ribs down, and then finishing with your arms all the way over the chest, and then just release them down by the side of the body. Good. Lovely. So let's just slide both legs away. And we're just going to point and flex. Oh my God, I've totally lost track of time here. Well, we've been having a lovely time. I've got another class at 6:30, but
oh my goodness.
Let's rest here for a moment, just coming into your corpse position. I just want you to point the toes away and then bring the toes towards your nose. So point them away and then bring your toes towards your nose. And then just circle the ankles out. Start to wiggle the fingers and just gently knock the head from side to side. And then we'll do one last stretch, reaching the arms all the way overhead, reaching them behind, let everything go. And then bringing the arms back over. And then this is where I'm going to leave you, but take your time getting up. So just either enjoying this sort of relaxation position on the mat for a little bit, having your knees bent, just taking your time. And thank you very much. Sorry I went over.